Welcome to another episode of real-life haunted stories. If you love chilling tales and spine-tingling horror stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a scare. New nightmares drop every week. Stay haunted. So, let's start our today's episode. Here are 9 creepy, disturbing haunted stories that will send chills down your spine. Story 1. The Haunted Roads of Route 666. Known as the Devil's Highway, U.S. Route 666 runs through the desolate desert regions of New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. Before it was renamed to Route 491, the stretch of road became infamous for its eerie occurrences and strange phenomena. People who drove down this road at night often reported seeing strange lights in the sky, followed by disorienting fog that seemed to displace time itself. Some travelers described an overwhelming feeling of dread, as if something was watching them. One particularly chilling incident happened to a truck driver named Mike, who was passing through the desolate stretch of road during a particularly stormy night. As he navigated the winding, isolated path, his headlights illuminated what appeared to be a ghostly figure standing by the side of the road. Thinking it was a stranded motorist, Mike slowed down to offer help, but when he approached, the figure vanished. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end, and he immediately sped off, only to find that his radio started picking up voices, low, guttural whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. Mike later learned from local residents that many drivers have disappeared or gone mad after encounters along Route 666. Some say the spirits of those lost souls who perished in accidents haunt the road, seeking revenge for their untimely deaths. Story 2. The Story of the Villisca Axe Murders. On a summer evening in 1912, in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, the Moore family and 2 of their children's friends were brutally murdered in their sleep. The killer, who was never caught, used an axe to murder the family members in their beds, leaving a scene of unimaginable horror. The murderer, after committing the atrocity, left the bloody axe beside the bodies, and it is believed that the killer stayed in the house for several hours afterward, as signs of his presence, like the sounds of soft footsteps and the smell of fresh tobacco smoke, were later reported. The house, which has since become infamous, has been the site of numerous paranormal investigations. Visitors often report hearing the sound of footsteps echoing through the house and the distinct smell of pipe tobacco. Ghostly images of the murdered family members, particularly 2 children, have been seen standing in doorways or wandering through the rooms. Most disturbing of all is the legend that the spirits of the victims still wait for the killer to return, and some claim that if you linger too long in the house, you might become the next victim of the axe murderer's lingering spirit. Story 3. The Ghosts of Eastern State Penitentiary. Located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Eastern State Penitentiary is one of the most notorious prisons in the United States. Opened in 1829, the prison was once home to some of the most dangerous criminals of the time, including Al Capone. The prison's design was meant to encourage reflection and remorse, with solitary confinement cells that isolated prisoners for 23 hours a day. However, the conditions inside the prison were horrifying, and many inmates were driven insane by the intense isolation. After the prison was closed in 1971, rumors of strange occurrences and paranormal activity began to surface. The most disturbing stories come from people who claim to have heard ghostly whispers, footsteps, and chains rattling within the crumbling walls. One of the most well-known ghosts is the spirit of a former prisoner, who is said to wander the hallways in a state of torment, still trapped in his solitary confinement. Some visitors to the penitentiary claim to have been physically touched by unseen hands or witnessed shadowy figures darting through the halls. The most chilling account comes from paranormal investigators who claim that the spirits of the lost souls still roam the prison, tormenting anyone who dares to step inside. Story 4. The Shadows of the Myrtles Plantation. The Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, is a beautiful yet haunted estate, notorious for its tragic history. Built in 1796, the plantation's early days were marred by death and betrayal. The most infamous story centers around a woman named Chloe, a slave who was rumored to have poisoned her master's family after being caught eavesdropping on her mistress. Although the story's details are hazy, it's said that Chloe used oleander, a toxic plant, to poison a birthday cake intended for the plantation's owners. When the family fell ill and died, Chloe was allegedly hanged by the other slaves for her crime. The plantation is now a popular tourist spot, but visitors often report strange, unnerving experiences. The most common sightings are of a ghostly woman wearing a green turban, believed to be Chloe herself. Some say they have seen her standing on the porch, staring into the distance. The plantation is also home to numerous other restless spirits, including the children of the Poison family, who are said to play near the mirrors and windows of the plantation. What's most chilling is the feeling of being constantly watched, as if the spirits of the plantation's past still linger, unable to move on from their tragic deaths. Story 5. The Lemp Mansion, a family cursed. The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri, is famous not only for its beautiful architecture but also for the tragic and eerie history of the Lemp family. The family's rise to success came through the brewing industry, but their story is one of despair, filled with mysterious deaths and alleged curses. The first tragedy struck when Frederick Lemp, the patriarch, committed suicide in 1904 after a series of financial misfortunes. His son, William, took over the business, but in 1922, he too died in a suspicious manner. Many believe that the Lemp family was cursed, with each generation suffering untimely and mysterious deaths. The mansion itself has been the site of numerous paranormal encounters. Guests and staff who have stayed there report hearing the sound of footsteps echoing through the halls, cold spots in otherwise warm rooms, and the sensation of being watched. One of the most famous spirits said to haunt the mansion is that of William Lemp, who is often seen staring out the window, gazing at the city below. In one particularly disturbing incident, a visitor who dared to sleep in the master bedroom was allegedly found in the morning with a terrified expression, unable to speak of what had happened during the night. The Lemp Mansion remains a popular site for ghost hunters, with many claiming to have encountered the vengeful spirits of the Lemp family. Each of these stories is marked by lingering spirits, mysterious deaths, and the unsettling feeling that the past refuses to let go. These haunted locations serve as grim reminders of the darkness that can linger long after a tragedy has passed. Story 6. The Shadow in the Attic. When I was 16, my parents and I moved into an old Victorian house in upstate New York. It had the usual creaks and groans of a house its age, but nothing too unsettling, until one night. I was in my room when I heard faint footsteps coming from the attic directly above me. At first, I brushed it off as the wind rattling the beams, but the sound persisted and became rhythmic, as if someone was pacing back and forth. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the attic stairs. I pushed open the heavy wooden door to find the attic eerily empty. Just as I was about to leave, the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, only to see nothing. Then I noticed it, a long shadow stretching across the attic floor, but there was no one to cast it. I bolted downstairs and refused to ever go back up. Months later, while renovating, my dad found a hidden crawlspace in the attic containing a dusty rocking chair and children's toys. We never figured out whose shadow I saw that night. Story 7. The Vanishing Hiker. My best friend Ethan and I decided to hike a trail deep in the Appalachians last summer. It was late afternoon when we reached the summit. We were enjoying the view when we noticed a woman standing a few yards away, staring at the valley below. She looked out of place, wearing a white dress that seemed too clean for the rugged trail. Ethan waved to her, but she didn't respond. We decided to leave her be and started our descent. About halfway down, we spotted her again, this time standing by the edge of a rocky cliff, staring directly at us. She hadn't passed us, and there was no other way to reach that point without climbing over dangerous terrain. When we called out to her, she stepped backward and vanished into thin air. Ethan and I searched the area but found no sign of her. Back at the ranger station, we described what we saw. The ranger gave us a grim look and said, "You're not the first to see her. People say she's been wandering these trails for decades. No one knows who she was, but hikers started seeing her after a fatal fall back in the 1970s. Story 8. The Stranger in the Driveway. It was late one evening when I was home alone, scrolling on my phone in the living room. Suddenly, my security camera app sent a notification, "Motion detected in driveway." Curious but not alarmed, I opened the live feed. A man in a hoodie stood perfectly still, just at the edge of the driveway, staring directly at the camera. I froze. The man didn't move for what felt like hours but was probably only a few seconds. Then, without warning, he walked out of view. I locked every door and window in the house and called the police. They arrived within minutes, but there was no sign of the man anywhere. A week later, I got another motion alert. When I opened the app, the same man was there, but this time, he was standing on my porch, his face only inches from the camera. He whispered something I couldn't make out before walking away again. The police still haven't found him, but every night, I double-check the locks and leave all the lights on. Story 9. The Midnight Knock. Living in a remote cabin in the woods was supposed to be peaceful. My fiancée, Lily, and I were ready for some quiet after years in the city. But one night, we heard a soft knock at the door around midnight. When I opened it, no one was there. Thinking it might be an animal, I closed the door and went back to bed. The next night, the knocking returned, louder this time. Again, no one was there. Frustrated, I left a note on the door, "Whoever you are, stop." The third night, the knock came again, but now it was rapid and frantic. When I swung the door open, a small scrap of paper fluttered to the ground. It read, "Why won't you let me in?" Lily and I packed up and left the next morning, cutting our trip short. The cabin's owner later told us that several renters had reported hearing knocks late at night, but no one had ever seen who, or what, was behind them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like to show your support, comment to share your thoughts or ask questions, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.